Hello guys, Colin here. Now that we've got the history of boosting out the way from the last video, and if you haven't seen that, click on my hand, you'll see it there. We're going to get into some practical applications today. I have my Bugera 333 behind me here. It's a cheap valve amp with more gain than anyone could possibly ever need. But for this purpose, we're going to use the crunch channel on a medium gain setting, get a good rock distortion sound out of this, which we'll then use to boost on top of. So let's hear that rock distortion sound coming out of the Bugera. So we're going to use that sound as our canvas. I've selected 4 pedals which I'm going to use to push this amp into high gain. The first in the lineup is the Ibanez Tube Screamer. This is a TS9 modified to sound more like the 808. We're going to use this as our yardstick to judge everything else against, since the Tube Screamer is so popular for getting the sound that we're after. After it, we have the TC Electronic Spark Mini Booster. This is the only true clean boost in this lineup. After that, we have, by popular demand, the modified Boss Metal Zone. Now, after my slating review of this pedal, hundreds of people came to me offended, suggesting that this pedal should be used as a boost. And I was an idiot for thinking that something with a stupid amount of distortion built in should be used as a standalone distortion pedal. I think I know how this one's going to go, but people want to see it used like this, so let's put it to the test. And finally, we have the Hotone Blues, very similar in sound to the Boss Blues driver, which you all might be a little bit more familiar with the sound of. This is a fantastic little overdrive box, plenty of volume there for boosting. In all these cases, it's going to be boosting as previously described, not adding to the distortion using the pedal's own gain. So with that in mind, let's start with the Ibanez Tube Screamer. I've got it set so the gain is fairly low, just enough to give it a bit of colour, and the volume set pretty high with the tone just above halfway. The huge advantage of the Tube Screamer, of course, is that it highlights mid-frequencies, making lead lines really pop out, and focusing at the low end so you can get your 6th and 7th string riffing on point. It also adds a nice bit of smoothness to the distortion, which is pretty unique to the Screamer amongst this lineup. In contrast, the TC Spark is going to be a little bit of a different sound. It's a true clean boost so long as the level control is kept below halfway. Go past halfway and it starts to add extra thickness to the sound, which is great if you want to give girth to your single coil or clean sounds, but it only really muddies things up to go into high gain distortion like we're doing here. So I'm going to keep it below halfway, but there's still plenty of volume there for boosting at that sort of level. Now, as expected, it made the sound much bigger and chunkier, but because it's not highlighting any frequencies in particular, it's not focusing the sound in the same aggressive manner as we found with the Screamer. For me, I think the Spark is much more suited to adding that bigness to sound to like single coils or lightly overdriven amps, clean amps. It excels in that area, but for high gain boosting like we're doing here, perhaps a little bit of coloration is what we need. The Metal Zone. As you can see, I've got the distortion shut all the way off and the level fairly high. On a clean channel though, it still sounds like this. The one advantage this does have is that powerful EQ section. And like we said with the Screamer, if we highlight the mids and the highs but take out some of the bass, then we should be able to shape an exceptionally aggressive sound out of this, even if it is adding more distortion and fizz than I'd like. Now, while this did take some time to get the EQ right, and it does provide a blindingly savage aggression, just listen to how much noise it adds into the system as well. Quiet. Noise. Noise is almost as loud as the notes in places, and it can definitely be heard between them and sometimes over the top of them. I would suggest getting an EQ pedal if you want to do this sort of aggressive tone shaping rather than using this. Also, in the overall sounds, we hear some lack of fidelity compared to the other sounds here, the other pedals. So, while I'm not saying you can't boost with the Metal Zone, for the sake of a clear and clean signal, you probably shouldn't. And finally, the Blues. Once again, low in the gain, high in the level, and tone just on the treble side. I'm expecting this to be a little less smooth and a little more edgy on the attack than the Screamer, because the overdrive itself is a little bit gnarlier. But we'll see just how it sounds right now. And again, this gorgeous little pedal doesn't let me down. It sits somewhere between the Screamer and the Metal Zone in terms of the edginess and aggressiveness of the sound, although with a much nicer signal to noise ratio than we'll find with the MT2. If smoothness is what you're looking for, this ain't going to give you it. You'd have to be looking more at the Screamer for that. But it's a slightly different sound for a slightly different purpose, so it's good to have the two of them. Now, while this is only a very limited selection of the pedals that can be used for this purpose, and there are a lot of boutique and high-end pedals which I haven't featured here, hopefully this will give you an idea of the differences in sound between some of the common candidates. Now, I will be doing a more full review of the TC Electronic Spark Mini Booster very soon, showing you some other areas where it does really excel. So if you want to stick about and see that, you might want to consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, and that will allow you to see that video and all others that I'm bringing out in the future. You can also follow me on all the social media, I'm on all of those, and you can leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you thought of these boost pedals and other ones that I should try. But for now, keep it loud, and I'll see you later.